it's Trixie, and apart from you're German? Why don't you make videos in German? An actually interesting question I always get is, how did you become fluent in English? Of course I could answer this question in just a couple of sentences, but honestly I think that this would be a waste. You know, learning a language up to an extent where you speak it fluently is much more than just practicing grammar and memorizing vocabulary. It's a journey. It's a story about curiosity, discipline, motivation, ambition, and passion. About inspiration, self-development, culture, big emotions, and people. Which is why I decided to share my personal story in all its variety with you, in not only one but 2 videos about this fascinating topic. The thing is that there have been different stages in my life, providing me with very specific skill sets and tools concerning languages. They're all puzzle pieces that now make the whole picture. And squeezing all of them in just one video would be a shame. It wouldn't do them the justice they deserve. I want you to listen carefully, to draw inspiration from my experiences and not to get bored by me burying you under a pile of words. My childhood, school, my studies, my job, my relationship, YouTube, all that is part of this very special language journey that I was talking about. And it's also part of a language enthusiast's life in Germany, which makes me believe that all I want to share with you fits to the channel and shouldn't be shortened more than necessary. So this is part 1 of me talking about how I discovered my passion for languages, how I became fluent in English, dealing with my childhood, my school career, and my studies. Please be aware that by fluent, I don't mean to say that my English is perfect. It's not my intent to brag about my incredible skills. I still make many mistakes and I know that. You can hear my German accent. But nonetheless, I feel that I can be proud of myself, and this is how I got where I am. Oh yes, this is going to be a long story. Nice quirky grandfather talking to his grandchildren in front of a fireplace long. So why don't you fetch a cocoa, tea or coffee, some cookies or crisps and get comfy. All my life I have been a writer. Already as a kid, barely able to spell words, I love to come up with stories and write them down. For as long as I can think, it has been one of my biggest dreams to become an author and publish a book. Why am I telling you this? Because it shows that I have basically been born with the belief that languages and words are more than just communication tools. I always knew that they bear secrets, that there is pure magic in them, and that you can somewhat tame them like you can tame a wild horse. And when they trust you, they will teach you their spells and let you see and use their magic. But I'm kinda wandering off topic already. All I wanted to say is that I have always been a creative person with a deep passion and fascination for the power of words. However, before I went to school, this mostly affected the German language. I think my first encounter with English was when my mother taught me a few phrases. Sometimes we had some friends from France over and she told me the basics, such as yes, no, thank you, and for some reason, sit down please. I guess she hoped that I would say that and they would find that cute, but I don't really know if I ever did because I was a very shy child. However, I still remember how proud I was to know these things, and as soon as I was able to write, I noted all of them down. Knew English and French words and expressions whenever I heard them. Horribly misspelling them for sure, but hey, you have to start somewhere, right? But as I said, the friends visiting us were from France, so I guess there was a point in time where I actually knew more French words than English words. The older I got though, the more contact I had with the English language. I was surrounded by cartoons and advertisements that at least contained many English words. And of course there was music. The English songs that I listened to gave me this feeling for the language, even though I doubt that I ever really got the lyrics. Maybe at the age of 9 or 10, I remember that I liked this song Upside Down Bouncing Off the Ceiling. But instead of that, I always sang Oops, I'm down, Nancy got a free land. No clue what that was supposed to mean, but I felt cool singing this song. After all of that, one big step towards learning English was of course when I went to school and had it as a subject. If I remember correctly, the first time I had English in school was in grade 4, so in my case at around age 9. I think nowadays English is taught much earlier, like right from the start or somewhere around grade 1 to 3, but back then, yes, I'm old, this was the standard procedure. Now, before I continue, let me emphasize that the following are my very individual experiences. I went to school in a small city, and it has been a while since then. So what I experienced does definitely not apply to whole Germany, and it may have changed drastically by now. I'm 26 already, don't forget about that. And my opinion is just one out of millions. So just keep that in mind, and here's my story. In the Grundschule, I really liked English. My first English lessons were very playful and all about simple words and common phrases. We played memory, naming items like animals, clothes or furniture. We learned the colors and how to count. And we often started a lesson by telling each other how we felt. One pupil asked, "Good morning, how are you today?" And the others were told to either reply with, "I'm fine," "I'm sad," or "I'm tired." Thank you. Looking back, I think that was a very playful and colorful and cute way of introducing us to the English language. I'd say it was perfect, simple and child-friendly as it was. And it made me really like English. At least in the beginning. All in all, I was a good student. So after the Grundschule and 2 years of a so-called Orientierungsstufe, which still existed back then but not anymore, I went to the Gymnasium. And no, that's not the same as a gymnasium. In Germany, there are basically 3 different types of high schools, and the Gymnasium is the most advanced and academic one. Not saying this because I want to tell you how much of a genius I am, but just so you know which kind of school career I'm speaking about. So back to topic. Of course, in the higher grades, we couldn't keep playing memory. But it was not only the lack of games that made me feel that fun was generally removed from English lessons, let's say from grade 7 on. It seemed to me that from one day to another, they had become extremely technical and dry. Sure, at some point they had to teach us grammar rules, sentence structure and time tenses, but I feel that there could have been a better way. I remember that it was so much boring input. The whole blackboard full of rules that we simply had to copy. No, tell us what you did this weekend any longer. Just use simple present for this sentence and then turn it into present progressive. Now past progressive. What's next? Past perfect. It felt like dissecting animals that had once been happy and cute and alive. All these professional terms, these technical operations we had to perform on sentences. The way it felt, English had basically become math. Needless to say how much that sucked. This exotic, adventurous feeling that comes with speaking a foreign language. Sharing thoughts, communicating and being creative. All that was suddenly gone and had been replaced by technical tasks. Language is about people and now they wanted us to act like machines. Taking in data and running our programs on it. No feelings, no personality. Learn these 50 words until tomorrow. Don't think about them. Eat them but don't taste them and feel ready to vomit them out whenever I ask you to. Same with grammar, time tenses, etc. I guess that happened because the teachers had a very strict concept they needed to follow. Grade 8 contains blah blah blah. Hammer it into the students' brains, no matter what. No creative approaches, no storytelling, no freedom, no fun. Questions? Go. And I don't know which came first, this forced technical lesson structure or the lack of motivation and passion talking about the teachers as people. I remember only 2, maybe 3 out of around 25 English teachers that I had during my school career that I would describe as passionate, or at least as they don't think about killing themselves every 5 seconds while doing their job. Most of them simply didn't seem to care at all. Whether or not we liked English, whether or not we got what they said, whether we took 10 minutes or 3 hours to do our homework. And they had the weirdest personalities. One guy was super aggressive and obviously liked scaring students to the bone by staring at them, suddenly raising his voice or saying very insulting things. Another woman I remember came to work drunk more than once, and she literally said to me that I looked like a cow peeking out of its own butthole. Whatever that means, but thanks. Then a woman that was super self-conscious and seemed like on the edge of crying all the time. Definitely underskilled for and overwhelmed by her job. Another one that was actually nice but greeting us with "Hello everybody, now we start" every freaking day. So where would that ever lead us? It was a freak show. And I feel really mean saying this because all of these guys may be cool people, but they sucked as teachers, that's no lie. I don't even know if that's their fault or the system's fault or whatever. But in the end I can only speak for myself and share my perspective. And my perspective is that they could have been such a big, important, positive influence for so many young people's lives, but for some reason chose not to. All that, the lessons that felt too dry and technical, plus these weird, uninspired teachers, caused me to lose my interest in English. I became lazy, I didn't do my homework anymore, and I completely lost track of what they told us at school. At some point it was so bad that my mom decided to get me a private tutor, and I had to go there after school to learn with her, which was cool, she did a good job, but I hated it that everyone automatically blamed me for my lower grades without ever questioning the reasons. Oh, our child doesn't bring home A's and B's onlys anymore, it must be broken. Anyway, In grade 10, despite my troubles, I chose the language branch over the science branch for my A-levels. Maybe you didn't know that yet, but German schools make you choose a direction for your last years of education. It's like a prioritization of your choice. And since due to my writing skills, German had always been my favorite subject and my grades in English and French had become much better, it simply made a lot of sense to go for the linguistic branch. At least more sense than to go for the science branch. Brunch. I like brunch the most. That sounds like food. You know, physics, biology, and chemistry had never really been my thing. I particularly sucked at chemistry. But so yeah, that's what happened. And the experience was okay. I loved German, French was cool, English, You know, even now in the higher grades, when it was more about reading books, analyzing texts, and being creative again, the previous years had left such a bad taste that I couldn't just go back to loving the subject. Now they wanted us to express ourselves again, share our thoughts, discuss freely and come up with ideas. It just didn't work. You know, first, all life had been sucked out of the English language. They wanted us to play with its dead ragdoll body parts. Then they kinda tried to revive it again, but it had been gone for too long, so what we ended up with was a zombie. Not more, not less. An English language zombie. I did have more fun with this zombie again. My grades got much better, but something was still missing. Something that I knew existed from listening to English songs and writing my stories. It hurt me that none of my teachers was able to introduce me to this secret part of the English language. So this was the moment when I decided to go on a treasure hunt and find it myself. After finishing my homework for school, I would start reading the English books that I was interested in. I watched series and movies in English, noted words and expressions and whole parts of stories that I liked. But this time, allowing myself to see their personality, trying to picture them as something more than letter combinations and tools, almost as friends, if you know what I mean. I didn't just learn them. I got to know them, and slowly but surely my skills improved. And I felt it again, this ambition, this motivation, and this magic. I didn't only think about grades anymore. Learning English meant something to me personally, like in a life goal kind of sense. So summing up my experiences with English as a subject in school, I would say that school provided me with the basic tools. It gave me a blank sheet of paper, a blunt pencil, and an old coffee-stained book about drawing stick figures. And then everyone said, okay, that's all. Now go and make art. Of course, that's not enough. But it was the first set of equipment, the first trigger that I needed to discover more of this art myself. Time for the next stage of my life. After school, I studied psychology, and it's a bit disappointing how unimportant English skills turned out to be for doing so. There were a few studies in English that we had to read, but that was basically it. Apart from that, in the end, they told us that we could optionally write our bachelor thesis in English instead of German, but since none of the professors seemed to care or were willing to appreciate the extra effort, it would have been more of a burden, a self-imposed disadvantage actually, rather than a benefit. So understandably, 99% of people, including me, chose to write it in German. All in all, not the best foundation to improve your language skills. A semester abroad would have been a clever choice, but the couch potato and introvert that I am, I simply wasn't made for that. So in terms of learning more English, studying psychology was kinda pointless. But that did not make it overall pointless concerning the topic. During my studies, I experienced what I waited to see for so long during my whole school career. Lecturers and professors being passionate about what they teach. When these people spoke to us, you could see how deeply they loved what they knew so much about. It was knowledge driven by love and passion. Some of them even shared their personal stories with us, how they got in touch with the subject they taught and what it meant to them. And apart from that, all of these dry tasks, homework and narrow-minded learning approaches were gone. From now on, understanding and learning was your very own responsibility, and you were supposed to do it your own way. For me personally, that's what I always wanted. No, do this, do that any longer, but make something out of this. Use your imagination. Learning was a way less forced and instead autonomous experience. Your personal success was based on effort, courage, and creativity, and most importantly, on passion. So the only thing I needed to do was take my love for the English language, draw from the inspiration that my passionate professors gave me, and keep learning, keep improving in my very own creative and colorful ways. Using the pen and paper metaphor again, my studies showed me that there were more than stick figures to draw, more than paper to paint on, more than pencils to draw with, and that following your heart is at least as important as following books. On this note, I want to end this first video about my experiences with the English language. Let me know if you liked this video and if you actually want me to keep telling the story. If so, in part 2, I would tell you about how finding my first job in an international company, my relationship and my work here on YouTube influenced me and my language skills. But first, now it's your turn. What are your experiences with learning a foreign language? What can you tell me about your childhood, the things you learned in school or during your studies? Did you experience similar things or quite the opposite? I would really like to know. So please share your thoughts in the comments and leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, because that would make me really happy. Now, as always, feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and here is a video that you should definitely check out as well. Subscribe to Don't Trust the Rabbit for more videos like this one, and if you want to support my channel even a bit more, you can also find me on Patreon. I would really appreciate your help. I wish you all a wonderful day and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!